On today's show, interviews with some iRacing members, and our interview with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
This show is sponsored by Sim Raceway. Welcome to episode 85 of Inside Sim Racing. We're here at the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana getting ready to interview a special sim racing guest of the show. First up, Sean's over in Bedford, Massachusetts visiting iRacing's headquarters where they're having an open house and he's meeting a bunch of local sim racers. Let's see what Sean gets over at iRacing.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
To receive 40% off of shipping to both the US and Canada, use this promotional code.
While in Boston for iRacing's first open house, I was able to talk with Dave Kemmer about tires, Greg Hill about new features of iRacing, and several others giving more insight on iRacing, and we will have more on that on an upcoming show. But today, I was able to sit down with several longtime sim racers, some of them you might know by name or reputation, and others you'll be meeting for the first time. But the one thing is for sure, they all take their sim racing as seriously as you and I, starting with Kenny Humpy. So what was the first sim that you ever tried out?
First sim that I ever had for the computer was NASCAR 1999 edition. I had like the
expansion
truck,
pack
yep,
version, right?
yep.
That was a great sim.
That was awesome, and I used to race it with a joystick.
Uh-huh.
So it's come a long way, but I started online racing in 2003 with 2003. So
I started off with Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge back on a floppy disk,
Right.
and that was with the keyboard.
Right.
And then just worked my way up the titles and started online racing with R Factor.
Right.
My dad bought a Cyrix 686 computer back, 94, 95,
Right.
and bought a copy of NASCAR Racing 1. And started playing with started off on the keyboard, wrecking everybody, or wrecking the AI cars.
Right.
Started going after Jeff Gordon, and got a joystick, started racing on joystick, and somehow came across Hawaii.
Right.
And joined up on Hawaii, got a really expensive phone bill that my dad did not like, and I cut lots of lawns and did a lot of landscaping work to pay that off.
Indy 500 sim back when I was a little kid,
Uh-huh.
and back then I just used to play on the keyboard and try to make laps without crashing. But I didn't really get serious into it until NR 2003,
Uh-huh.
about 7 years ago now, and then that was mostly oval racing, of course, but then I really didn't start my road racing career until I started with iRacing 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then since then, I just done about everything.
Right. I'm here with Steve Myers of iRacing, and what's great about Steve is he's another one of these guys who's been a very long-time sim racer who has somehow turned it into a career. Thanks for being on the show, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
When did you start sim racing?
I actually started back in the mid-'90s. I had a buddy. His dad had the original NASCAR game, and he had it on his computer upstairs in his office. And my buddy showed me it one time, and he had just a joystick on it. And I was like immediately hooked. And I used to go over to my buddy's house and just walk straight into his dad's office
Right.
and start racing. I wouldn't even go downstairs and hang out with my buddy. I would just go right up into his office. And
He was only your friend so you could race?
he was my friend beforehand. Kevin Kilcoyne, I owe you, thanks. You started all this. But and I would go over there and I'd race. And then so I didn't even have a computer at that time to be able to get it myself. And so I finally got a computer, and at that time I was really into Formula One and mostly IndyCar.
Uh-huh.
And so by the time I got a computer, it was like IndyCar 2 at that point.
Right.
And I played that game all night long for months, and I still hear Paul Page's voice, and and it brings me back to those days where I'm driving IndyCar 2. But that's where I really started.
Well, now I'm here with somebody who probably doesn't need a lot of introduction, especially to iRacers, probably to anybody who's been in sim racing a long time. Nim Cross. Nim, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure, Sean.
We got to hang out quite a bit yesterday, which was a pleasure for me because you are notorious, perhaps. For those of you who don't know, Nim, what's your official job title here at iRacing?
I am the chief steward for iRacing.
What got you started in sim racing?
Well, my passion for motorsports got me started in sim racing back in the mid '80s when I was a kid. I used to make auto racing board games,
Right.
and I just loved racing.
Right.
So when the computer started coming out, it was just a natural, merge for me to go over. And then Dave, made Indy 500, and I was into that and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, Dave was making other games, stuff like that. And I just started calling the company and say, hey, I really love what you guys are doing, And then I got the beta testing, and then I started helping out and with other game companies and things like that, just trying to gain some experience and doing that. While I'm doing all this, I'm working regular jobs and stuff like that. And, it just turned into where I got more involved and people started knowing me and the stuff that I was doing. And it worked out to, doing a lot more. It's a lot larger road than what I'm saying. But, here I am.
What kind of equipment do you have at home? What kind of wheel do you use?
I just have a G25 that's 4 years old now, probably ready to die.
Uh-huh.
But nothing too fancy. They just still use a regular stick shifter with it. I just have the plain wooden chair that I sit in at a folding table. No fancy cockpits here, as much as I'd like to have one. And just a regular computer that I built myself last year, and just a LCD monitor, nothing fancy for me.
I got a G25 and just sit at a desk and race.
Standard pedals, any kind of mods to your pedals, anything like that?
Nope, just the regular.
Right.
I use a G27, and I like it. I pretty much have always gotten used to just whatever I have.
Right.
I have a good Dell computer, XPX computer, and 24-inch monitor. It's not in surround sound system. It's nothing extravagant. No pod or nothing, because I work at my computer also, and I just don't want to sit in a pod while I'm working and that kind of thing. But it's probably a pretty average type system. It's a really good system, but average racing system.
I try to go old school. Everyone's got all these G25s and G27s here. I use just an old Logitech Momo right now, just because somebody's got to still use an older piece of equipment. But I use a set of ball racing pedals at home.
I got a Logitech G25 and I race at a desk. Nothing special. Just
Right.
I have a Leo Bodner box
Right.
for my pedals, and that's about
Right
it.
now I have an Obuto, single monitor mount, no add-ons. I don't have the acrylic tabletop. Got a G27 wheel with Canon pedals.
And then, for me, there are a lot of reasons, but, can you really sum up why you sim race? What brought you to sim racing, and why do you think to this day you still do it and take it rather seriously?
Well, I tried racing real life, and I had a mini sprint, and I burnt up 3 pistons in 1 week, and just asked myself why I was spending this much money to race at a local track. And
Right.
So I started racing online, and it fills the need for racing.
Well, I think it's just I've always been really interested in motorsports. Grew up at the local short tracks, and of course watching Indy cars every week. And it's just like an extension of that. Just being able to watch Helio or the old Bobby Rahal on TV was one thing, but being able to actually race at Indy or Road America on the sim is just really cool, and just a whole nother experience.
Grew up, my dad watched NASCAR, and I got into it just watching my dad watch it, and soon the whole family was getting into it, and he got the game for us, and it just took off from there.
Right.
The feeling of racing other people is really what got me into it. Just, racing against the computer, you can only have so much fun.
Started sim racing because, there was nothing really else to do back in Ohio, so, I started sim racing online in 2003.
Right.
And just kind of, kept with it, and now I'm here.
I think what makes me a sim racer is, I'll be honest, I don't think I ever had that extra step in being able to do it in the real world. I think I had an understanding of my own mortality, and and I never was able to go 10/10 in the real world. And I think and being that I really learned most about how to, car control and racing online, I feel more comfortable doing that, I think.
We all obviously have a passion for motorsports, and we all want to do it in real life. And it's so expensive and so hard to do in real life. And this is a way for us to, to get that passion, that feeling, or that need that we need to race.
Right.
And it's not, and it goes beyond that. It's not only the need to race, it's the need to experience the environment, the tracks, and the friendships that come along with it. After that, it becomes more addictive. The addiction builds on itself because you're not just racing anymore. It's not that, you're making friends and you're doing different things.
I don't know how quickly it happened for you. Do you remember the first win you got online racing?
Yeah, it was at Talladega. NASCAR 1, the dog leg or the tri-oval at Talladega on NASCAR 1 was deadly. And I was just in the draft pack, got up on the leader at the time, went through the tri-oval and dove down on the apron, wrecked him, and then, which took out the rest of the field. And then I just putzed around to the win.
It was back at the Robbins Racing League with in our 2003 Elite Model race. I think that Robbins Racing triangle track, which was pretty fun. Everyone else crashed, and I picked up the win.
Gotta love it. Anyway, we could get the win.
Like, I don't remember my first oval win, but the first road win was at VRR Grand East with the Skip Barber.
Right.
And not being a real road course racer guy, like, that was just awesome to be able to take.
I was in Michigan, and I was in Ted Musgrave's family car, back in NASCAR 1. And we started the race, and I'm so nervous. I've dreamt of this moment forever. And we're going down in turn 1, and everybody wrecks. And it was like, oh. Wow.
I think the first race that I actually really won that was an online race, like, a general public race, I think it was here.
Right.
It was a Legends race. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I finally won, like, a real race. But I think that was probably back in, like, 2007 or 2008. So I don't claim to be the fastest guy out there.
Yeah,
so.
I was racing the league back in 2003, and it was at Texas, I remember, and I was really close on field, but I remember barely making it and finally winning. It took me forever to actually win my first league race, but so it was a pretty big moment.
And do you have a favorite sim racing car at this point in time?
Oh, that's a tough question. I love all of our cars. It's funny. I think the most vivid one I remember over the last kind of 6 years here at iRacing, I would say the SK modifier for some reason really hit me because I love that driving off the right rear kind of feeling.
Radical. I know everyone hates it, but so much fun to drive. You're never bored with it. Lively little car.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more fun than a 30-car Radical race at Lime Rock.
It's got to be the Silver Crown running it in the Inside Sim Racing TV Championship.
Like
So, yeah, it's a great.
Right.
It's a nationwide car.
Yeah. Is there any reason in particular?
Because I'm fast in it. That's about the only reason I can come up with.
I think that's probably one of my favorite reasons. And what about track? Do you have a favorite track you like running?
I'd have to go with Martinsville.
Cool.
Charlotte seems to be my best on stats, but Phoenix with the Silver Crown is just awesome.
I love Watkins Glen. Ironically, I love New Hampshire road course. It's not a terrific track, but it's one of the only tracks that I've ever actually been on myself. In real life.
Like Watkins Glen, Mid Ohio, tracks like that. My favorite oval tracks are New Hampshire, Milwaukee, Las Vegas. Pretty much all of them, really. I mean, Bristol I probably despise the most.
Okay, fair enough.
I like the natural terrain type road courses, like Watkins Glen. I like Summit Point, Lime Rock, things like that.
For ovals, I like the short tracks like Lanier. That's probably my favorite one. And for road courses, probably Barber Motorsports Park, just because it's so technical, lots of elevation
Any
changes.
advice? I mean, you've taken what was your passion and turned it into a career, which is remarkable. And I mean, for anybody who can wake up in the day and do what they want or love is a great thing. Any advice to those out there who are trying to really break into being in the sim racing world? Things they could do to follow your path?
It's so hard. Back when I did it, it was a little bit easier because there wasn't so many people doing it at that time. And I was one of the first to be able to get to do what I liked. But what you need to do right now is, if you want to be noticed, is you do what you love to do. If you're a guy who loves building leagues, go out and build a league and have fun, and don't worry about being the best league, but improve as you grow, and then you might have an idea, and then implement that idea and make it better. If you're a guy that writes programs that helps rookies out, do that. Whatever you're passionate about doing, that's what you need to do, because if you're trying to fake it, or you're just trying to do something to attain a goal, it's not going to be you're probably not going to make it, because you're just not passionate about that certain thing.
Get a degree. Right. I mean, that's definitely the first thing. If you're into math, try to get into software development. If you're an artist, put together a portfolio and start building a portfolio that's representative of the type of product that you want to work on. If you want to get into the production and management side, get on with a QA team, a beta test with something, and if
which is your way in.
Yeah, and if you're into modding, creating a mod that is using tools for a company that you might want to go to work for. Right. Those are the best ways to do it, because and as in anything in life, you need to put together kind of like that history of what you can do. Right. And if you don't have that, you're never going to get past someone looking at your resume. So it's important. I mean, when I tried to get into this industry, I went back to school for it. I joined the SCCA. I built up a lot of references that made me look like more of a complete picture on a resume than just somebody that's saying I want a job there.
Right. As you can see, we all have similar roots in sim racing, and it's the people involved that make it so special. And getting to meet some longtime online friends in person really seals those friendships. I would like to thank Kenny, PJ, Nick, Michael, Steve, and of course Nim for taking the time to sit down with me. It will forever change the way I see them on the track in the future. R-Factor Central, the home of the one-click install. Download your favorite track, download your favorite mod, download many of the cars from our top sim car list. One-click install at R-Factor Central now.
NASCAR diecast and sports memorabilia? Who's got it? We all do. SFDisplay.com has a wide variety of cases available to showcase those prized possessions. Whether it be NASCAR, Hot Wheels, football, baseball, soccer, or hockey, we've got it. SFDisplay.com. Escape the ordinary. For all your display needs, SFDisplay.com.
Order now and get free shipping plus 10% off your order. Use coupon code ISRTV10 at sfdisplay.com.
It's about that time for me to go on over and interview Mr. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who I have yet to meet, driver of the number 88 Sprint Cup car. So let's go talk sim racing with Dale.
Today's top story is sponsored by Sim Raceway.
Thank you, Dale, for joining us. It's been great coming out here and getting to meet you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to just talk some sim racing with you, and I'm going to start off. I wanted to ask you, being around racing and growing up around racing your whole life, what made you make the transition into virtual racing, or what turned you on to it?
Well, I think, I just liked anything that had, anything to do with motorsports and racing and the competition. When I was a kid, playing video games and stuff, I never thought that things like, NASCAR sim racing and the things that Papyrus was able to do, I never thought that would be possible. But the more, things kind of evolved and the technology came along, and there were a lot of unique ways to get all us online and get us together, the TN network and everything. Just kind of revolutionized how sim racing online, how it came about, and it just really revolutionized everything about it and made it fun to do on a regular basis, and where you're seeing the same guys every week and building a community, and there's guys that are getting as popular at driving and sim racing as they are in the real world.
So can you tell us about your very first sim racing experience, or your very first setup?
The first setup I had, I didn't have any credit. I was about 16 years old, and my sister had to go with me to Best Buy and put the computer on her credit, and I paid her what the monthly payments were. So it was a lot of fun, and she didn't know what I was getting myself into, and she just knew it was expensive, but I had a lot of fun with it.
What was your very first wheel?
I guess the Thrustmaster was my first one, and then they come out with a second one, and you could buy them right off the shelf. Now we're ordering wheels online through various companies, and
it's incredible how much that technology's came along over the years.
What about your current setup from your first and to what you got now?
It's not really changed that much. I've been using a standard desk and a regular chair, and it's not a, I use Canon pedals and things like that where, back in the old times, the 15 years ago, we used to have just a little plastic box with a couple pedals on it. And now they're pretty much like what you see in a real race car. So it's all that stuff's kind of came a long way, but the setup itself really, I haven't really gotten too crazy. I went to a couple of LAN events, and you see guys with their own rigs, and they got racing seats and all that stuff, and pretty much a whole race car built around them, but I haven't got that far into it yet.
Yeah, being that you're someone that could probably afford to have a whole sim rig setup, I would think that you would.
Right, yeah, I just never got, I've tried different rigs and even motion simulators and stuff like that, and I just can't, I just don't feel as competitive in them as I do with what I've been using for the last 15 years, and I got, I've messed around with triple monitor setups, and I've went back and forth between that and single monitor, and it's kind of tough to decide which one's best, and everybody has their preference. I mean, there's some amazing rigs out there that are really great, but everybody has their preference, really what makes them comfortable.
All right, so when you're on the road, I imagine you're always traveling and making appearances. Do you do any sim racing?
No, but I do. We're on wireless here. We don't have any hard lines at the racetrack, so I can't really race on a wireless card at this time. I'm sure the technology will get there in 10 years or so, but they do have on iRacing where you can actually watch the races now. So we do log in and watch some of the events that some of my friends are running in, just to kind of see what's been going on and keep up with the website and the changes and the new updates and stuff like that.
All right, speaking of iRacing, we know that you have a close relationship with them. Are you still doing any behind-the-scenes work with iRacing?
Every once in a while, I get pretty heavily involved into it. The way my schedule is, during the chase part of the year, I kind of have to disconnect from all the sim racing for about for the last 10 or so races. It's just a really busy time. All our sponsors are wanting all their production days done and getting ready for next year and shooting all the commercials and videos that you'll see on TV next year. But so it's a real busy time right now. And then in the wintertime, I get really back into it, and we'll be involved with the guys trying to see what's going on and what direction they're going to go with the sim, and trying to help them with my opinions and stuff. And it's been great. Dave and all the guys have been really, really nice to me and bringing me into the fold and letting me be a part of it, and the competition committee and all that stuff. So it's I've enjoyed being a customer, and whatever I've been able to attribute and help with the direction of the sim, I've been glad to be able to do that too.
And the new F1 is coming out with iRacing. Have you gotten a chance to try that yet?
No, I haven't, but I've heard it's taken a long time really to build that car, and but they got some great data from the teams overseas to be able to build a real quality vehicle, and I hope that the customers are real happy with it.
Have you ever tried an F1 car in real life?
No, I haven't. I think the only guy that really did that was from NASCAR to swap over really was Jeff Gordon over at Indianapolis, when him and Juan Montoya sort of did that one-day deal. And Jeff said it was amazing. The brakes on the car are out of this world, and obviously the acceleration and everything's really good in the car too.
Okay, so since we're talking about brakes and acceleration, everyone out there is a sim racer. You do professional racing and sim racing, and everybody wants to know how they compare to each other. So first off, with the sense of speed, how do you think that iRacing captures a sense of speed in comparison to the real thing?
They capture it pretty good. It's hard to explain. People ask that question all the time, but the COT is a handful in real life, and it's a real handful in iRacing too. And you always say in real life you don't really have a sense of speed until you've lost control of the car, and that's the way it is in iRacing. You don't really know how far you gotten yourself into trouble till you can't recover, and the sim does a good job of sort of projecting real life speeds and senses. You got everything except for what you feel in the seat of the real car, and how it handles around you. Everything in a real car, everything your body touches, as far as you being in the seat, your head against the headrest, everything that you're touching the wheel is a sensor to the speed of the car and the handle of the car. That's the one thing that you're missing, but it's the only thing. Everything else is right there, and they do a good job. We've really worked hard, I think, over the last 2.5 to 3 years with iRacing to try to get the speeds relative to real world times, and that's a real tough thing to do with currently in iRacing. There's really no dynamic weather, and in the real world everything's always changing, going from night to day, and temperature of the track and everything. So it's really tough to really pinpoint where you need to be, but we do a good job with it, I think, at iRacing.
And what about force feedback? How important do you think that is a tool in sim racing?
Yeah, I used to not race with force feedback for a long time, and I just started, once I started racing with iRacing, I went to a force feedback wheel about midway through. It was a little bit of an adjustment, but within 24 hours I was up to speed, if not a little bit faster. And I think the one thing I like about force feedback, and like I said, I've only been using it for about 3 or 4 years, but the one thing I like about it is it gives you a sense of reality. When you're looking at a screen, things aren't tangible, like you can't reach out and touch the curb or a ripple strip or anything like that, but the senses that you have in a real car, that it sort of brings that back in the steering wheel. When you run over a curb or you cut a corner a little too sharp at Martinsville and tap the curb, you're going to feel that in the steering wheel, and you need to be able to make real quick on the point adjustments to the car and the wheel to correct what that might do as far as how it unsettles the car. And you really use that a lot at road courses with curbs and ripple strips and stuff. There's a lot of shortcut ripple strips and curbs at certain tracks, like the chicane at Watkins Glen, that you really need to use the curbs a lot. And you can that force feedback really helps you be able to adjust the car through those transitions.
So what is your favorite track on iRacing? Do you have a favorite?
Well, I think it's hard to beat Michigan. Everybody seems to love racing there. It puts on a lot of great races with the trucks and the Nationwide Series. But the next one coming is always the best one. The one you've never ran before. They just released Dover and Pocono, and there's several other tracks still yet on the schedule in real world that have yet to be released, and everybody's just looking for the next greatest thing.
So do you use sim racing purely as enjoyment or to practice for upcoming races?
I think during the season, during the middle part of my racing season, it's purely for enjoyment. But in the wintertime, I think it is a good quality tool to stay refreshed on your approach to drafting and the decision-making process that you have inside the car when you're out there competing against real guys. There's an approach and a mindset that you need to have, and I think it's good to keep. Sim racing is a good way to keep that sharp. Obviously, it's a great tool to learn racetracks that you've never been to before. But I pretty much know all the tracks on the circuit, and that's not really a tool that I can use. But a lot of road course guys use it thoroughly.
Other than iRacing, do you dabble in any other sims out there?
Not really. I used to play just about every one that came out. We'd pick it up and try it. But the only motorsport sim on any console that I mess with really is iRacing. And I was when I was a little kid, I wanted to play football, so I played a lot of football and golf and games like that. But I spend most of my time on iRacing.
So none of the new console games that are out, F1 or Gran Turismo 5 that's coming out?
I really, I'll probably look at Gran Turismo 5 because of the new NASCAR aspect, but it's just such a big gap between those games and iRacing and technology and realism and everything about the game, everything about the sims. Really, it's just so much better, and it's hard to step back. It's hard to. When you can play, the technology that iRacing has on a computer, it's hard to really take a step back on a console and just lay down on the couch and play with a joystick over a 42-inch screen. It just doesn't do it for me. So I know that I used to play Gran Turismo, but mainly for the achievement factor and just moving forward in your career. But now that iRacing even has that aspect to it, it's really all you need.
All right, so we talked about the force feedback and the visual aspects and what you can feel in the car. Have you tried any of the new wheels like the ECCI or the Frex or any of those new high-tech wheels that are out there?
I had an ECCI a couple years ago, and it was a good wheel. There was a couple things. I wasn't really used to the fluid and dampening, but and I kicked the pulley off to get rid of that. But and I've got a lot of wheels that are in pieces. Actually, I could probably start a parts warehouse, but I got a lot of pots and stuff and wires and cables and half half-built wheels or torn-apart wheels laying around. But I had the G25 and I was using it for a while, and it's a relatively cheap wheel, but it does the job. And I went to the new 27 and been using it a little bit. And really, the wheels to me are kind of all the same. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but the main thing that I find where there's an edge and maybe some difference in realism is the pedals, and the Canon pedals right now to me are the best.
The Canon pedals? Nice. What were you using before that?
Just whatever came with the G25 and the TSW pedals, which the TSW was a great wheel too, but now that I've moved on to force feedback, it's G27 for me.
All right. Well, I think that answers all of our sim racing questions, and we thank you for taking the time to join us and meet up with us here. We've been looking for this for quite some time now, and I guess we'll be seeing you on the track in the winter.
Yeah, I'll be back as soon as we get done working here. Got a few more races left and get through Thanksgiving and everything. I'll be back into sim racing pretty hard, but I'm a big fan of the show. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'll be tuning in the future.
All right. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Hope you guys have enjoyed this show, meeting a bunch of sim racers. Maybe one day you too can make it on the show. I'd like to take this time to thank Dale for meeting up with us, and iRacing for having Sean out in Boston at your open house. We've enjoyed this, and make sure you stay tuned to our website, InsideSimRacing.tv, and our other YouTube channel, which is SRT Media. Until then, Checker Flag is out, and so are we. Racing rigs provided by GamePod, the choice of champions. Go to gamepod.co.uk. Get your background images at wall-graphics.com.